G'day and welcome back to the channel. So in today's video, I want to show you how to make a good sitting posture easier with 4 simple strength exercises. And if you've clicked through to this video, you've probably already got some sense of value in your day-to-day sitting posture, whether it's just for aesthetic purposes, or you're trying to make sure that you give yourself the best chance to avoid common aches, pains, and dysfunctions that can often be related to time spent in a bad sitting posture. And while improving your sitting posture does require more than just strength, being strong in the right areas can make being in a good sitting posture more comfortable, more convenient, but more importantly, more sustainable over time. So whether you're in pain or you just want to look and feel better, let's get into it. So as always, the first thing that I want to touch on before we get to these 4 strength exercises is I want to give them meaning, because I don't want you to just explore these exercises because I'm a physio and I'd like you to do these exercises. They need to have a purpose. There are so many different strength exercises that will benefit your sitting posture, but the 4 I want to touch on target specific things that should help make being in a good posture easier for you now and long term. In order to understand this, we need to understand what tends to happen when you move from a good sitting posture to a bad sitting posture. And these exercises should hopefully just help you reverse that. So how I'd like you to think about this is that if you know what a good sitting posture feels like, where you're up nice and tall, shoulders comfortably back, when we lose good positioning when sitting, it's often because we go to relax thanks to gravity. And the way that our anatomy is structured, when we go to relax, what we tend to see is that looking at our trunk, we tend to collapse through a section of our trunk. And from here, our shoulders tend to drop and roll forwards. And often a natural compensation for this position is that when our spine essentially breaks, our head tends to look down naturally. But if we're doing something that requires us to look ahead, then all of a sudden we need to bend our neck or poke our chin out to compensate back to that position. So essentially, instead of being up tall, shoulders back, head in a good position, we tend to collapse, drop and roll forwards, and tend to hinge through that part of our neck. And from this, the goal of any strength exercises that we go through need to attempt to reverse this and work on the muscles that extend your spine, pull your shoulder blades back and up a little bit, and allow you to be in this position more consistently. I certainly have a whole range of neck strength exercises in a previous video. Please check that out if you want some deep neck strength or some general neck strength exercises. But the 4 exercises in this video are going to try and reverse this position to hopefully make this position much easier for you. It's also worth noting that if you are a member of this channel, there will be an extended version of this video with an additional exercise that isn't a strength exercise, but a specific mobility exercise to make getting from this position back into this position easier and allow the strength exercises from this video to be more successful. So if you'd like a little bit of extra content, please consider becoming a member. So one of the first exercises I would recommend you try to help improve good posture is an exercise that helps you take your trunk from wanting to be here to a more upright, neutral position. And to get from here to here is essentially extension. So all I need you to do is, if you can lie down on a surface, making sure that you squeeze your glutes just to stabilize your pelvis, draw your belly in and up, again to stabilize your trunk. And whether you want to have your hands on your forehead, your arms in this position, or your hands by your side, what I'd like you to do is just try and extend your chest as high up as you feel comfortable, and then gently relax again. We want to make sure that we come up as high as you can, because we want to encourage as much mobility as possible, but we want to try and fatigue the muscles in your spine, those extenders, as much as possible. So your standard 3 sets of 10. Ideally, we're just looking for a sense of fatigue more than anything, but we want to try and get those muscles that run the length of your spine a little bit stronger, so that when you are sitting and you do feel the need to relax, we want to try and incorporate more endurance and more strength, so that when you're in this position, it feels easy to do that against the force of gravity wanting to compress you and fold you forwards. And then the second exercise we want to get to is going to move up a little bit, trying to help you better keep your shoulders back in the face of gravity. So the second simple strength exercise that you can do to help improve your sitting posture is a basic rowing exercise. As mentioned earlier, one of the main things that happens to our shoulders when we dump out of a good position is they tend to drop and roll forwards. So one of the exercises that we need to give you is something that helps you pull pull your shoulders back to take care of that aspect of losing a good posture. And a simple way to do that is if you have a TheraBand or some cables or a bike tire or something that can give you a little bit of resistance, if you wrap it around something and take a bit of a step back, what we're looking for here is, again, we want you to be up nice and tall. And the goal of this, if we have this down a little bit lower, is that we want to end up in a good shoulder posture. So what I'd encourage you to do is we want you to pull your elbows back towards your side, while at the same time, we want to pull your shoulder blades back and together. Now, depending on how flexible you are and how good your control is, we don't necessarily want you to think of bringing your hands to your trunk, because what that can do is sometimes if you're lacking some shoulder flexibility, it can ask you to dump your shoulder forward and lose a good shoulder posture. But if you can pull your shoulder blades back as your elbows come to your trunk, if your shoulders stay back and you can go further, go for it. But the purpose is really trying to squeeze those shoulder blades back more than it is to get your hands to your trunk. But like every exercise, we want to do enough of these so that you feel a general sense of fatigue through the muscles in between your shoulder blades. One little technical thing to be aware of as well is that because you're trying to pull your elbows towards your trunk and not your hands towards your trunk, some people do try and poke their chest out and extend their spine to try and shorten the distance between their hands and their trunk. So just make sure that your spine stays neutral, maybe a little bit of a bend in your knees, elbows to your side, shoulder blades squeezing together, and do enough of these that you feel some general fatigue. And like I said, we want to try and strengthen the muscles that retract your scapula, because poor posture tends to protract your scapula, and we want to build the strength and endurance to feel good in this position long term. And then following on from this, the third exercise will help us with not so much the rolling forwards, but the dropping down that our shoulders tend to experience with less than ideal postures. So the third strength exercise is yet another one that we can file away in the ridiculously easy category. But like the rest of these exercises, sometimes simple is better. So as mentioned, what we're going to try and do to counteract the dropping that happens through gravity is we're going to do some shrugs. And with your same TheraBand or some hand weights, some kettlebells, some bags with some books in it, whatever works for you. But in this instance, I'm going to stand on the band. I'm going to get as much tension as I feel comfortable. And we're going to stand up nice and tall. So again, the way this looks, we want your shoulders comfortably back, hands off your side, up nice and tall. All we're doing here is keeping your arms and elbows straight. And we want to think of your shoulders coming up behind your ears as high as you feel comfortable, and then controlled lowering down. Up behind your ears, and then control that lowering down as well. Again, some technical aspects to be aware of is that a lot of people, when they do shrugs, it's very easy for your hands to start to creep back towards your side, take some of the tension out of the exercise. Keep those hands away. It does make it a little bit harder. It also brings in your rotator cuff a little bit more. The second thing is that a lot of people stop thinking about lifting their shoulders up behind their ears, and it often becomes a matter of trying to lift your hands up as high as you feel comfortable. And again, a lot of people complete that task by bending their elbows a little bit more, as opposed to locking them out and making the majority of the work go through that upper trap, neck, shoulder area. And then the third piece of this is be mindful that when you've got a good posture, your elbows are straight, your hands are away from your side, because we're trying to get your shoulders up behind your ear, much like the banded row, sometimes it can be easier to poke your chin out to decrease the distance between your shoulders and your ears. But instead, if you maintain that good posture and do all the things that we just mentioned, the challenge is to maintain that good posture while you're doing the thing that we're trying to do. And as we said before, make sure that you do your 5 sets of 10, 5 sets of 15, generate that fatigue, feel the tension through your neck, through your traps, through the rest of your shoulders. It should then become easy for you to maintain this position. So then the fourth exercise is an exercise that will help you maintain a straight, neutral spine for longer. So the fourth exercise is a basic plank or plank variation. If you've taken the time to strengthen your extenders, your shoulder blades are now more comfortable being in that position. We want to make sure that you have the endurance to keep yourself in this position. The ability to maintain a strong, stable, neutral trunk position in the force of gravity constantly wanting you to break is a really important piece of this puzzle. And in the theme of these exercises being very simple, the simplest version of a plank is just the standard plank, where again, with your bottom squeezed, your belly drawn in, you can start on your knees. Some people like to clasp their hands together. I like to make it a little bit harder and have your hands parallel to each other. From here, up nice and tall, butt squeeze, belly drawn in, and just hang out in this position for as long as you feel comfortable. For some people, 30 seconds is enough. Sets of 30 seconds may be perfectly fine for you. If you can get to a minute, do a minute. If you can do longer, as long as you have the time and the energy to structure it that way. But like all these exercises, we just want to make sure that by the end of it, you can generate a really good, strong sense of fatigue to tell your brain that it needs to get that little bit better so that when you complete this and go to sleep, it'll come back better the next day. But again, a simple plank exercise, once you're in this position, can just help make it easier to maintain this position while you're doing the things that you need to do. So with all that being said, I do genuinely hope that that was helpful and insightful for you. Please remember that at the end of the day, improving poor sitting posture requires something to be different. What I say clinically is that poor sitting posture is often just a very natural reflection of the environments that we're in. But on top of that, the stronger we can make you against some of the shapes that your body wants to default into, the better chance you'll have of maintaining this position for longer and not feeling like it's a big deal. But above all else, if you don't value the good sitting posture and have a drive to consistently check in with yourself to see where you're at versus where you could be, then this video might be something that you'll have to keep coming back to consistently to try and buffer against those things. But as always, if this was helpful and insightful, please consider leaving a like on the video. Subscribe to the channel if you do like this content. Please consider becoming a member if you want to help support me and the channel and get more exclusive content from me. But once again, thank you for watching and I'll see you next time. Bye.